Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Season 3. My name is Andrew Davis, and of course, as I already stated, you are watching Season 3 of Conversations in Pop Culture, brought to you by my sponsors, Mixum Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free to their 24-hour customer service support, Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials. And the company has also printed so many successful Kickstarter campaigns, a bunch of them you've even heard about on this very show. And they offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK. And Mixum can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com. And right now, listeners on my show, you drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of current order to get a 5% discount on their first order. So that is Mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount on your first order. Also, my sponsor is BCW Supplies. Use code POPANIMECOMICS to get 10% off your order. Bags and boards are expensive, guys. I get it. It's called inflation, and well, 10% is definitely cutting into that. And the other sponsor is, well, my project is live right now. My Kickstarter, that is Conversations in Pop Culture up above. Obviously, you could get a guest spot, guaranteed guest spot. You can also get a guaranteed live read. You can get a really cool metal card that just dropped that's featuring my friend and cosplayer DJ Croft, and a variety of other really cool perks are up there. And I can't do it without you because, well, it's going to help make Season 3 happen. And so without further ado, and enough of me rambling on, I have with me illustrator and comic cover artist Tristan Thompson. So welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I am super excited to have you on because you are killing it right now in the comic realm. And I promise we're going to get to comics, everybody, but I do think the best place to start is, how did you get involved in the comic, poster, graphic art design game? Because you've done everything.
So when it comes to comics in particular, Josh Lyman, you familiar with Josh?
A little bit.
Okay, so well, at least you know the name. Josh Lyman, big props to him because he was the one that told me, I think it was at Chicago Wizard World, probably in 2018 or so, 2017. And he told me, he's like, you have some really good art. You should go into Comics Elite. They're in Indianapolis where you are. And so he's like, just go in there and show them some of your work, and maybe they'll set you up with like a live sale or something. So I went in there, name dropped him, and they're like, oh, okay, well, Josh recommended to you, and Josh was like their big star at the time, and they're like, well, if, Josh gives you credit, then you must have some credibility. So they set me up with a live sale, and did the sketch commissions and stuff, and I was promoting my own book at the time, my own like illustrated novel. And so after doing a few of those live sales over the course of maybe like a year or so, they said, if you want to do like a Vampirella or a Red Sonja cover, just, try a few and hopefully we'll have something for you. So I did a couple Vampirellas, but none of them really hit. And then I did a third one this past January where I was like, I'm going to really focus on this one and try and make it as good as I can. And so I showed Ernie that, and he's like, yeah, I'll get Sean on this, and we'll definitely make it a cover. So that was the first one that came out. That came out this past June. So yeah, to answer your question, it was all just getting in touch with them, and it just so happened they were a local business, and we were able to make something happen through that.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and I want to table some of that, though.
First, of course, yeah, no, that was like my past 2 years in like a quick little paragraph.
Because the reason why I want to table it is that I do want to show a little bit of what you've done before all the comic stuff and some of this art stuff, and sort of because you're not just a comic cover artist. And I do want to pay tribute to one of the best basketball players of all time.
Okay.
And this is going old school, and this is Kobe. And so, obviously, the reason why I bring this up is that, I mean, we're going old school a little bit in your career here, but obviously, you're not coming out of comics or into comics blindly, where you have a very interesting track record of doing things for Kobe's merch and paying tribute to Kobe and a variety of other projects. And I am curious how you got into this, because I know a bunch of people are basketball fans. And well, I want the views on this topic, and I want the sound clip for TikTok.
For sure. So all the Kobe stuff was done through the agency I was working for. They're also local here in Maingate, but they got the contract for Kobe's Hero Villain line. That was in we started working on that in 2015, and I think they launched it in 2016. But they put me on a lot of that stuff around that time, and that was, I think, the very first design that we did for him. And so all that stuff, like, I had done it, but it's licensed through Maingate, or they're called Legends now, but at the time they were called Maingate. And there was that and a few other things that I had done for him. But I think that was one of the few that actually got approved. I did some other designs I thought were really good, but they ended up not going for them. So I don't know if you ran across any of those, but
I saw some of them, and I like this one the most, to be honest.
Everyone liked that one. And I was like, man, that's your favorite one? Because it took me like an afternoon to do it. It took me like 3 or 4 hours. Whereas the other ones I would spend like, 20 to 30 hours on. And they're like, yeah, these are okay. But we really like that split, like purple and yellow one.
Because, and even going further into this, because a lot of, obviously I knew you from Zenescope. And that's how I found you. And then obviously Merc Magazine. And then obviously I just had Dolan, who sort of ended my season, about 3 weeks ago. Obviously I saw that you've done a lot of stuff for them. But when I came across this, I'm like, oh, snap, you're just not a comic guy. And what was that like? Because when you're working on Kobe merch, whether it's licensed and you have and a company got a contract, I mean, there's a lot of, trust being placed because it's Kobe Bryant. It's not, like a minor league basketball player, for lack of a better word.
No, working with Maingate, they had a lot of big name clients. We did the Screaming Eagle line through Harley Davidson, and then the National Hot Rod Association, or NHRA, and then we did the Colts, obviously the local teams, Pacers, Colts, and we had a few other NFL and NBA teams, but a lot of it was racing themed. So we did a lot of that, and that kind of helped me get some big name clients under my belt. It kind of like gave me some confidence. I'm like, okay, if these places are accepting my work, then I should be somewhat like skilled, enough to where I can perpetuate this career. So I think that was where it helped. But I left the company because it was kind of getting stifling for me. Like, I wanted to do more of that, like full-fledged digital painting. And when you're dealing with t-shirt designs, a lot of times you have to limit your colors to maybe no more than 5 colors. And that does help you in a way, because it helps you like kind of limit your space, and in a way that helps you be more creative. But I really wanted to break free of that, because I didn't feel like I was getting my full potential there. So I left in early 2016 to then pursue digital art, and then I just started falling into the comic world.
And even to talk about that, because I got a bunch of digital art, and some of it's really cool stuff. So obviously this right here, Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Obviously this is something that's super cool. And
really? See, that's an older one. I think that one was a commission that I did for someone a few years ago. But the first one was just like a fan art piece, because I was going to do a horror convention in Cincinnati, and I didn't really have a lot of horror art. And so I just made that one. And there was a Nightmare on Elm Street one that I think I made as well. But I've retired those pieces. Like, I don't print them anymore, just because I see them now. I'm like, they're okay. But if I recreated it, I could probably do something a lot better. But no, I just don't have time to do that stuff anymore.
And even going further, because we have to throw this, because we all have princesses.
Yes, this one was one of my favorites. I did this one for it was an annual art show here in Indianapolis, and it's called the Bigger Picture Show. And what they do is they assign you, or you put in like your top 5 favorite movies of a given theme, and then they curate the show. So they let you know, like, okay, here's your film. You need to do a poster over this. And so that year's theme was musicals. And so they gave me Little Mermaid, and I had to watch it. I had never seen the movie before, surprisingly. So I had to watch it, and then created the piece based off of that. And I felt like this piece was special to me because the work I did before that, I feel like it didn't really, I hate to say the word pop, but it didn't pop as much. And then this one, I kind of stumbled across a new technique where I was able to balance my colors in a way that I'd not really done before. And after doing that, I'm like, oh, this turned out really good. So then I started applying that technique to every piece moving forward. But this one was definitely like a kind of a landmark piece for me.
And even going further into that, because obviously, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have sort of a bad girl style, but also it's a little bit pulled back to some degree as well, and it's promiscuous. And this seems very much PG, for lack of a better word. And also everybody knows Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is that like for you to have something like that in your portfolio? Because obviously compared to something like this, that's very, suggestive and very fun. And this is definitely more my style as what I like. But to have something that is, I guess, tamer, that if I had a 7-year-old girl, I feel very comfortable with her buying this versus buying this.
Yeah, and like I didn't really like the indie one. I didn't really intend on making that suggestive. I don't know. It was just like a natural thing that came out. But
no idea to make it suggestive.
But the Little Mermaid one, I mean, I didn't want to deviate too far from what the character was. So to me, like there's no reason to make Ariel like suggestive, because like that's not who she is as a character. It's supposed to be fun and colorful. And so that's what I try and stay with. Like the Ahsoka piece that I did this past year, that fan art piece, same way. Like I didn't really make it. Oh, you have these like right there, ready to go. I didn't make this one sexy because like that's not what makes her cool. Like that's not what makes her awesome. So I try to stay away from that with that one. I just try and stay true to the character whenever doing like fan art pieces.
And to even talk about that, because we're right on the topic, that's something that I think is also really cool, is that I like this piece as well a lot, because we got action going on, but we also have her looking the way a Sonja is supposed to look, as a badass, fierce female. And what is that like? Because Star Wars fans are the most picky fans
of course.
ever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, I know. You have to really study the characters, because even like when I posted that one to Reddit, I think, and someone pointed out, like, this isn't the outfit she wears in the new series. I'm like, yeah, but it's still an outfit that she has worn at some point. I'm not trying to make it, your way. I've done it my way. So if you want to do it your way, create your own art. Like I've created this already. So there's always going to be, especially, Star Wars is notorious for that stuff. Like everyone's going to be very picky about little things. So I try to study as much as I can before I jump into something.
And that this is also very cool to the idea where I feel very comfortable if I had, a kid who was under 13 buying this for I don't have any kids, so nobody get any ideas here, at least not yet. I'm still a young man. I want to make that crystal clear. But this is something that I would definitely not be comfortable,
Really? Okay.
And I mean, I love Tank Girl. Don't get me wrong. I love Tank Girl. And this is just fun. Like this is like having like the way I describe this is that it's like when a kid gets like a super sugar brownie for the first time, and it's just like he's biting in and his eyes just bulge out. That's exactly what this is.
It's like oversaturated, ridiculous. Like, this was for that same annual show, the Bigger Picture show, and I kind of see that show as a way to kind of prove to everyone in the local scene what you've learned in the past year, and like really put forth your best work, and kind of a way to like show off in a way, because it's all for charity event. So you're supposed to just have fun with it. And that's something I really take away from that. I look forward to it every year because you really get to do something that's fun and creative and I can get into.
And then even going further, and I don't know when these were dropped, and obviously, I mean, I love this cover. I mean, I love this poster. It's just so perfect. It's just so perfect. And my mom will hate it, which makes it so much better. And that's why I love it even more. But obviously, I'm also old school Nintendo type of guy, and I know that you've done a bunch of cool stuff. And obviously, Nintendo is 20 years this was made for, and that's Mario. And then you had a follow up with this one. And then you had another one, which is also very cool. Yeah. And so what is the story behind all three of these? Because they're a lot of fun.
Well, when I was a kid, like the thing that I always like to draw was flipping through the pages of like Nintendo Power or like the player's guides and just seeing the little inserts of art through there. And then I would just pick and choose those characters and just kind of redraw them. So to me, that's like a revisiting of that. And I mean, that's what kind of got me into drawing like that. I found drawing fun, drawing those things. So that to me is just, yeah, like revisiting that moment from when I was younger drawing those, but like now doing them as my skill set, currently. And again, like a lot of those I've retired because that Zelda piece, like, I really liked it, but it wouldn't really sell too well at conventions. So I don't really have that much fan art anymore. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing some if I had the time, but
So to even talk about that, because one of the things is that obviously I'm on the comic book investing side, and we were speaking a little bit before for those who are interested. I love exclusivity. I love the definition of it. I like the fact that when somebody goes and makes a poster, that there's only 100 of them, or makes a print and there's only 100, and then I go to a con, and the only place is that you're going to 10 cons, and when you run out of them, you're done. It's not being reprinted. There's no second print. Because to me, that makes it more valuable. It makes it more special. Even if there's no monetary value, if I know that I have something and only 99 other people have it, I feel like I'm in a club. And I know maybe that's not what the intention when you retire a piece, but even when you say, hey, look, after a while, I'm going to be putting this piece down, get it now while it's still available. What is that like? Because it does, I think, make people, hey, I got to get this because this looks awesome. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, I know a bunch of people would really appreciate this piece. And they'll be like, oh, snap, you got me this cool print. I wouldn't have bought it for myself. I know that it's not like an ultra, like, $9,000 piece of art per se. But at the same time, it's still pretty cool where you hang that up on your wall and you're a big Nintendo fan. It's like, wow, you got something cool. So what is that like for you when you're saying, hey, I got 10 of these left, and then those 10, once they're gone, we're done?
So I don't really make an announcement that I'm retiring a piece. I just kind of tell myself, like, okay, these aren't really going too fast, so it's not really worth it to me to print them and then have them on hand. So I just, like, on my web store through my website, I'll say like final run. Once they're gone, they're gone. So that's really the only thing that I do with that, is just put a little disclaimer there saying like these are final run. But if I'm at a convention and I sell the last one, I'll tell them like, hey, you got the last one. I'm probably not going to print any of these again, but I don't really announce it per se. Like the Mario one, that one still does pretty well, so I still print those. But the other two, I've printed like a couple runs of that Peach, and they took a long time to sell, so I just don't print them anymore. And then the Zelda one, I had like one run of that, and it didn't go too well. But there's another Zelda piece I have where Link is going into the Forest Temple. I don't know if you saw that one, but I still print that one because everyone seems to like that one. It's just everyone digs it, so I keep printing it.
No. It makes sense because at the end of the day, this is a business, and then it's the idea when something doesn't sell, it's the market dictates everything.
Yeah.
From my world, at least. And obviously, I'm in the entire comic book investing business, so that's something that is very important. And then there's two more pieces on the poster front I want to talk about before we talk about your book. And then we're going to talk about covers, I promise.
Yeah, no problem.
But we do need to talk about it because it is a little bit before my time, but these are arguably some of the two greatest shows ever created. And, well, there's this one.
Yeah.
And so that's some Go Lion, also known as Voltron.
Right.
And so what's the story behind this? Because Voltron is still pretty hot right now, and it's still pretty cool, and people love Voltron. And,
well, it's actually a little bit before my time as well. I remember as a kid, I had like the big plastic Voltron toy, but I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was a cool lion robot that shot things out of his arm. I didn't really know what it was until probably when I was like a young teenager. But this one, a friend of mine, his name's Andy. I don't know exactly what he does. He's on like the Voltron branding board or something. I'm probably getting that wrong, but he does a annual Voltron convention called VoltCon here in Indy, and he asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. He's like, if you just maybe do a poster, I'll get you a table there. So it was a 2-day convention at a hotel, a smaller convention, more intimate. But I was like, yeah, I'll do a Voltron piece because I wanted something that wasn't just another like sexy girl to sell. So it was a good opportunity for me to have something different in my portfolio. So I jumped on it, did that, and then I printed like the 18 by 24s. I had some 11 by 17s. I think I even had one like 16 by 20. But I printed a run of those for that convention. And that was the story. But I just wanted to have them on hand for that, just like some fan art to sell.
And then what complements that really well, and I don't know which came first, is this bad boy right here.
Let's see. They came out like around the same time. So I think the Captain Planet was first. I think that one I did in August or so, and then the Voltron was done in October.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Again, the Captain Planet was that was actually a fan art piece. I didn't really do it for anything in particular. I was just like, I had some downtime, and I was like, I want to do a dude. So I chose Captain Planet to just kind of offset some of the other stuff in my portfolio. But it was a lot of fun to do. It didn't take me too long. It was just, I wanted a new addition to my portfolio.
Because what I like about this, and even the Nintendo stuff, is that, it's a lot of nostalgia. Mm-hmm. While Star Wars is great, that piece doesn't bring up nostalgia. Right. I remember staying up, sick, and then you watch Captain Planet or Voltron at like 3 in the morning because you got the flu, and your mom's awake with you, and you don't know what you're doing, and you're like, man, this was awesome. Or you come home from school because it's a half a day, and Captain Planet's on at like 11:30 on like Boomerang or Cartoon Network.
Yep.
And so like that's something that is, I would imagine people stop and say, oh my God, like that's Captain Planet. And it's just a very weird feeling because obviously I'm 29. So I think Captain Planet was a little bit before my time. Voltron's way before my time. Yeah. But I know this stuff because like I'm an old school anime, 80s, 90s cartoon kid. And what is that like when people say, oh man, I remember that? Because I don't know how many people in the art field at cons are doing Voltron and Captain Planet and going old school Nintendo stuff in that regard.
So yeah, I don't remember seeing a lot of Captain Planet stuff. I feel like I may have seen some Voltron stuff, but the Voltron was kind of assigned to me. So, but still, I thought it was a good idea to do it, so I did it. But the Captain Planet was just something that I was trying to think of a guy I could do. And so, I remember watching Captain Planet when I was really young. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool to do it like a just a jacked like Captain Planet. And it's funny seeing the people that recognize it. They're like my age or older, like, oh, it's Captain Planet. And then the little kids don't know who that is. Like, who is Captain Planet? And I'm thinking like, that's a really like topical character. Like this would be a perfect time to do like a movie or something of Captain Planet. I feel like it would go over really well. And it would be something that a lot of people would get behind because like you can't like politicize Captain Planet in a way, like everyone can get behind the message of saving the planet. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create something that, everyone can agree on. Like everyone can agree that saving the planet is good. So that was kind of the inspiration behind that, is doing something that can kind of like everyone can enjoy. But yeah, like I said, it's funny to see the 30, 40-year-olds point it out and children not know who it is. But, everyone knows who Mario is, but not everyone knows who Captain Planet is.
Yeah, that is true. Everybody knows who Mario is, and everybody's a Mario fan, whether they want to admit it or not. It's like everybody's a Pokemon fan, whether they want to admit it or not. You have to be, because everybody's played Pokemon Red, undeniably. And if you haven't played Pokemon Red, you're just lying to yourself. It's all right. There's a club. It's called Pokemon Red's Anonymous. We meet on Tuesdays under the Brooklyn Bridge. So I'm just saying, don't show up on Wednesday. That's a different group.
Okay.
Territorial. I'm just saying, if you get your days mixed up, guys.
There's been a lot of mistakes.
It happened twice.
Okay.
It did not turn out well. I'm just saying, I barely made it out alive. But obviously, I mean, and I didn't even touch on like half of the things that you've done in the graphic art and poster game and everything that you've done. But I do want to talk about something that you mentioned before this, and that's your comic as well, which is Dust Rider.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what an illustrated novel is per se, but I know that you funded 3 chapters on Kickstarter. And I know the basic premise is that it's sort of dealing with humanity's first interstellar civilization and a bunch of cool stuff's going on. It's got a bit of a cyberpunk feel to it. So what is it about exactly? Because I don't know if you can get it still in print, but I think you can get it digitally.
Yeah, I still sell the digital version on my website. So the Kickstarter was actually for the 3 different volumes that I did. So each volume had a number of chapters in it. So volume 1, I started writing that in 2017, I think, and then it included chapters 1 through 6, and then volume 2, I did a different approach where I was like, okay, the more funding I get, the more chapters I'll put in there, and I got like a little bit above my initial goal, so I only had like 3 chapters in volume 2, and then volume 3 was just the rest of the chapters that I wanted to put in the first book. And so books, there'd be like 1, 2, and 3. There'd be a 3-book series. So I wanted to finish it out just so that way I could print the first book, and then from then on I would probably only print the book, because I didn't want to have to keep track of, you know, okay, how many volume 2s do I have? Now I got to print this many volume 3s, because people are going to want to buy the whole set. So I just wanted to get like to that milestone. And so I think volume 3 had 7 chapters in it or so, but you know, I only printed enough to the Kickstarter backers. So if you got that, like, I'm not going to print any more volume 3. I'll probably print some more volume 1s, because everyone just likes to have the volume 1 if they don't want to buy the whole book. But yeah, I sold out of the books. I will print more eventually, but you know, it's kind of an investment to print nearly a 200-page book, full color, and you know, I'm printing it all myself, so I'd have to have like some kind of pre-order, or maybe the next Kickstarter I do.
Need a funnel.
I can reprint them. Yeah, exactly. So but yeah, the story, I tell people it's a mix between Terminator, Akira, and Blade Runner. So yeah, it is very like, you know, along with my other art, is very like 80s inspired. And one of the things that kind of perpetuated my idea was the whole like synthwave movement. So once I started like listening to that music and like thinking, okay, what would this world look like if there was actually like a fleshed out environment with this? And so I just started like writing a story, and I've started to move, or I wanted to move away from keeping it too niche. Like I wanted to make it like a general sci-fi novel, but that was kind of where my inspiration initially came from. And so if I ever get to book 2, it would just be more like general sci-fi in a way. And the friends that I have that have read it, I've been told like there's a lot of stuff going on, and it doesn't really end in book 1. It kind of just leaves it really open. And I keep telling everyone, like, I'm not a writer. I just wanted to write something where I had the ability to draw cool sci-fi imagery. So the imagery comes first, and then I was kind of just writing a story so that I would have an excuse to do some sci-fi stuff. But I enjoy writing. I don't know if I'm any good at it, but I do enjoy it. So the whole thing is rewarding to me to be able to create it.
So even to talk about that, because obviously, you know, it's the idea that you're saying, hey, I just want to draw cool stuff and have it somewhat interconnected is what I'm hearing. Yeah. And I just want to show off what I can do to some degree and do some really cool things. I mean, I just showed 4 pictures, and I show them again, where these images are awesome. And like, I'm not going to lie, like, I want to read this book. Like, I don't even care if it makes sense. I mean,
exactly.
So I'm the guy who watches ridiculous animes, where one of my favorite animes is Gurren Lagann. Now, Gurren Lagann is a beautiful story, but they just keep going bigger. And you ask, how much bigger can they go? And then they go bigger. And I like that idea, because it's just the idea of how far can you go? And that's kind of what I mean. I went through the Kickstarter and all 3 of them, obviously, and I'm like, I just want to like read this, and I don't really care if it makes sense, because I just want something awesome. And
that was kind of my goal, was like just sell it on the imagery alone, and then hopefully people will buy it. And then the story, you know, hopefully is somewhat, you know, legible and can be followed. But the imagery was really what my focus was.
But even to go further into this, because I think this was sort of your first dabble into comics, really, and obviously going on the indie route, and indie comics, where it is right now, is a very different world than where it was, you know, 5 years ago. But it sort of started really 2017, 2018. The indie bug really started to kick up, and obviously 2020 really put that into a whole new level. But what was that like? Because it is very cool being on Kickstarter and having control and not having to answer to publishers. And not to say that doing a cover for a comic company isn't great and things like that, but there's a lot of cool things when you control your destiny to some degree and you are doing your project and the only people you have responsibility to is getting it to your backers. But they know what they're getting into to some degree. So what was that like? Because that didn't exist 10 years ago the way it exists now.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like now is the best time to be an artist because you have the internet and Kickstarter and all these like Patreon, like crowdfunding sources, and it's so easy to get your art out there. I mean, the downside is there's a lot of competition now, but there's also a lot of people. So there's the amount of people that discover your work. You don't need everyone to discover your work to be able to, continue doing it. So as long as you have like a good handful of people that know who you are, I feel like that's really all you need. But the Dusk Rider book, I call it an illustrated novel because I kept like having to tell people like this isn't a comic. It's full spread illustrations every chapter, but it reads like a book because I like reading books. So I just want to make something that I would read. Honestly, I just want to be honest with myself, and I didn't want to make something that was trying to appease everyone. I wanted to make something like that I would like, and then hopefully that would kind of help find those people that are like me that would want to read just a book. And so, but also I like drawing, so I wanted to do big full spread illustrations because that's what I like spending my time on. I don't like to do a bunch of little panels. I would probably never want to do that. I'd always want to focus on one thing and spend hours on that one thing because I feel like that one thing can tell a story in itself. So that was the interest of mine, is just creating like a limited number of more fleshed out drawings.
No, I get it. In which that at this stage, obviously, I am not artistic, and even if I was, I would want to do covers because sitting there doing a panel and then having to do 22 pages, it just seems so tedious.
Yes, exactly.
It just seems there's so many better ways to make a living in comics than doing that, and it also seems so boring after a while.
I mean, some people I think enjoy doing it. Everyone's wired differently, and some people can go work in a factory doing a monotonous job every day, and they're totally fine with it because they're wired differently where they can do that. And I think people that can do those panels, I mean, it's great because the comic world needs those people. But finding an enjoyment out of that is definitely something that's great because if they can do it and enjoy it, then that's awesome. But like just for me in particular, I want to spend a lot of time on one piece to make it look really good. And that's just the way I've always been. I don't know how else to describe it.
No. I get it. In which there's a reason why I'm podcasting and why I'm in so many different sectors because I could legitimately just stay in comics and go mainstream. I could go indie, but I interview wrestlers, cosplayers, voice actors because I'm interested in mixing things up. And it keeps me on my toes. And I'm not wired to be a one-trick pony. And I like going into different sectors because, well, why wouldn't I? It's a lot more fun. It's a wider world, in my view. And so I completely get it. And so that sort of transitions us right where I want to be. And that's talking about your comic covers because obviously you dabbled into it with Dusk Rider, and now we get to talk about coming into doing a lot of comic covers, and we're going to do it slightly out of order because
no problem.
I want to talk about Zenescope.
Okay.
And I like Zenescope. I have a lot of Zenescope books. It's no secret that I make money with Zenescope books by selling them. I am a capitalist, and I'm the first person to admit that. But how did you get into Zenescope? Because, they are not the company that they were 16 years ago when they first started, and they have sold a lot of books, and they are becoming very much a household name, and they've been continuously climbing and gaining readership and a variety of other things. So how did that come about? Because it is now cool to be in Zenescope, and Zenescope in a lot of ways is also a breeding ground where people like Ebaz, Don Mateague, David Nakamura, or DNA, has come out of there, and a variety of other people, Sun Kumanaki, Elias Chazoudis, And so what is that like to be, obviously Jamie Tyndall, who you know very, very well, has come out of Zenescope and gone through Zenescope. So what is that like to be in that company now doing covers for them, and how did all that come about?
I mean, it's an amazing opportunity to be able to work with them because I started following, or I would say following, I became familiar with them like when I first got started with art, like 10 years ago. This is before I worked at Manga, before I was doing any of the Kobe stuff. This is like whenever I was doing metal band album covers and metal band t-shirts out of my apartment in college. And I started finding like just, being more familiar with digital art, because when I was in college, we had some digital art stuff, but the focus was traditional art still, painting, drawing, and that sort of like nature. But I was more interested in like the digital stuff. And so when I started researching the different digital art, I found Mike DeBalfo, and I was like, this guy is on point, because I mean, he does the pencils, so like he's drawing traditionally, but then seeing the digital finished versions that the colorists have done, I was like, this is amazing. Seeing like the way he composes it, and like just the balance of the figures, like his proportions are just like perfect. I was like, this guy has it down. And so finding his work, and that's how I found Zenescope, was just, the covers of his that were published through them. And so I've been familiar with them for about 10 years. So whenever Dave reached out to me in, I think I said March, I was ecstatic. I was like, this is nuts. The fact that I've been following their work, and then now they're asking me to do covers, because Mike was someone who I had looked up to, or I still look up to, for a long time, as one of my favorite artists. And then now that Zenescope was reaching out to me, I was like, oh man, like it kind of made me feel like I had grown, because, first I'm looking up to him, and now I'm doing covers for the same company that made me, or that I found 10 years ago. So it was really like surreal for me to be able to do it. But I mean, it was amazing. I've only done the 2 covers for him, so I don't know if I would really say I'm like part of them, but it's amazing to be.
So obviously this cover is really cool.
Yeah,
and that's Van Helsing, and I actually, Joan, I forgot the title of it. It's something Beast, I want to say.
Beasts of Exmoor.
Yeah. And I have like 3 of them because I saw it and I knew it was coming out. I'm like, oh man, this book is off the chart. Like, it's one of those books that is just really cool to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a regular cover. It was like a cover COD, I think. But even still, like, what was this like? Because obviously, Van Helsing is one of their lead characters,
mm-hmm.
and getting to do this cover, and also, being just in their system, and also giving another choice, because I'm going to say this very nice, but you're the new kid in Zenescope right now.
Well, no, I totally agree, because like I said, I've only done the 2 covers. I still feel like I'm someone that they're like testing the waters with, to see like how I work with, in a way. And I love working with them, because any kind of feedback that I've gotten, even on this one, there was like, working with Dave, he was just like, fix like one little thing, but otherwise, like, this looks great. And it was just really like rewarding to be able to work with them, because I felt it was right up my alley, because that's what, like, this kind of art is what got me into digital art. I was like, I saw Mike's work, I'm like, I want to do that. Or I saw Art Germ's work, like, I want to be him. So seeing that, and like being able to now do those type of covers, I feel like it just is a perfect fit. So I really hope to do more covers with them, but like I said, just the 2 for now.
And even to talk, I'm going to show the other one in 1 second, but even to talk about that, because obviously I've been heavily into Zenescope for the last 10 years, and even more so in the last 4. And obviously Ralph's been on, my show Dave's been on, Raven's been on, I've had Chuck Dixon on, who's on the writing side, and a variety of other people have been on. Jamie Tyndall obviously has been on, Ebass has been on, Don Matigue's been on. I've run through like so many of their people. If I didn't mention Senku Manaki, she's been on, DNA's been on.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening now with Zenescope, and I don't know how familiar you are, but Senku Manaki started off as the new kid on the block. Keith Garvey came in, new kid on the block. Ian McDonald came in. And then there's, I think, Chris Delar is now also one of the new kids on the block. Mm-hmm. And it's becoming very much a breeding ground. And I'm smart enough as an individual that I see the writing on the wall. I mean, I don't know how many people are seeing the writing on the wall yet, but there are certain places that are becoming the breeding ground. You know, Big Dog Inc. is another place that's becoming a breeding ground. And I think Merc Magazine, and I'm not just saying this because you have covers there, but I think that in the next year or two, they're going to be becoming a breeding ground as well. And then there's a few other places as well. There's a few places on Kickstarter. You know, Jim Noble is a good place as well, where he's a breeding ground for a lot of talent, and a lot of talent gets to express themselves. And so what is that like, that all these people, you know, come to Zenescope, and then, you know, 2-3 years later, and I've called it a bunch of times at this point, not to toot my horn, but it's clear to me that that's a company that knows how to find a lot of talent, and then they get talent for a little bit, and Zenescope almost has to find new talent quicker as soon as they hire people. It's a weird position to be in for them, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure. And like I try and keep up with, you know, I see
it's a good problem though. It's a good problem.
Of course, yeah. No, I see Zenescope stuff like on Instagram, and you know, it's a lot of Son's stuff, and I see her work. I'm like, how do you do it so fast and so good? So it's kind of intimidating in a way to see these other artists, but like I've always been someone who tries to be like a friendly competitive, because I see other people's work. I'm like, okay, like I gotta top this somehow. I gotta like be better. So it helps me grow. And it's so cool to see the artists that I follow grow in their own way. But I just, you know, I pick up on those different styles. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try something kind of like what they did, and just, you know, try and incorporate new techniques all the time. But it's so cool seeing like all the artists that they have, because it allows me to kind of see their stuff and then, you know, draw inspiration from what they're doing. But like I said, it is like there's an intimidation factor there as well, because you know, you see it and you're like, oh god, like it's so good, and like they're putting out work so quickly too. So I'm constantly pushing myself to, you know, do that.
I mean, just on an investment level, like I do very well with Zenescope books, but I'm also getting to the point where there's just so many every single month. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, I'm becoming a little bit more selective on what I buy.
You have to, I think.
I mean, it's a crazy how much content and how much books they push out, and also they're a crazy company. Where the loyalty to Zenescope is insane.
Yeah, no, I think they have a really high artist retention. When I was talking to Ernie at Comics Elite, telling him, you know, I got my Van Helsing cover got like approved or whatever. I'm working with him, and he said that's good because Zenescope holds on to their artists. Like once they give you a cover, if you work well with them, like they'll keep feeding you work. So I was really excited to be able to do that. Hopefully I can continue working with them, because I think the covers I've done that went over really smoothly, and I think the team likes them. I hope Dave was giving me compliments on both of them. So
because there's a few artists that have legitly stayed with Zenescope for almost 10 years. Keenan White is one of them that like people don't even know who Keenan White is, and he like legitimately Keenan White, he has I think one of the like the highest number of covers, and I think the only person on Zenescope who beats Keenan, and I could be wrong. There might be a few people who are close to Kanan's number and might be above him, but I think Sanju Navagun has the most credits with Zenescope, and minus Ralph and Joe. And the reason why is that Sanju's on almost every single colorist book. Like legitimately, every single week, Sanju has a book he colored with Zenescope out. It is insane how many books Sanju colors a year.
It's a lot.
I mean, the guy is a beast, and he was on my show too, and that's another one that was a great interview. But it's kind of crazy. And then this one, I don't know if this cover's out yet, but I know that
I don't know if the book is out, but like I mean, they've published this cover and everything. So
and if they didn't, well, we're doing it right here. So
yeah, whatever. No, I've already put out like a time lapse video of it, and then Zenescope. I always, you know, you have to wait until the publisher puts it out before you can do anything. So they put it out in December at some point, and then so yeah, it's public knowledge for sure.
And so I mean, this is a cool one too, because obviously we get Robin, and obviously I don't know what book this is. I think this is one of those one shots that they're doing with Robin Hood, right?
Yeah, I believe so. So I think the initial title of it, I think it got changed because I'm not sure what this one is, but I don't think it
Is
was
it
the initial.
Hellfire or is it the one after Hellfire?
See, I'm not sure because it was under a different name whenever I was assigned it, and then I think it was changed. So I'm not certain what the final name was.
But it, I mean, it's out there. It's not an exclusive for those who are interested in their comic shop, and I don't think people are gonna have a hard time finding this book at the moment when it drops. I don't. I think that if your comic shop orders an Zenescope book, they're gonna have copies of this book.
Yeah, sometime in January. I'm not sure what the exact date was, but sometime this month.
So I don't think it's coming out this week. I don't think it's coming out this week, but definitely, I'm not too sure. So I'm not
Definitely
saying.
soon.
But I mean, I like it, and I know that you have the video of you actually showing how you made it and sort of how you know went from building her up from basically just her figure, some clothes, then like her face and all the entire thing on your Instagram, which is super cool. It's like a time lapse video.
Yeah, so I try and do that with most every piece I do because it helps me whenever I take all that footage and I put it into Premiere and I'm like kind of chopping it up and editing it. I can see what parts I got hung up on, and so it helps me kind of revisit those areas and realize like, okay, this is where I'm spending the most time. Like this is where I had to keep trying things over and over and over again until they finally worked. So like those time lapses are cool to watch, but part of it is I do it for myself as well, just because it's like a recap for everything I just did, and it helps me kind of advance on the next piece and know, you know, what my workflow, what the most effective workflow is.
Yeah, no, I get that completely, and I enjoy just watching it because I can't draw, and I'm not about to learn. Except because on January 10th, somebody's going to try to teach me, and it's going to be a very interesting experience. And I don't know what we're going to draw while we talk about his book, and I've never done that, and maybe I'll send it to somebody if my Kickstarter funds. You know, that'll be the $750 stretch goal. Is my drawing, and who knows? Maybe it'll actually be good, and maybe I'll make it into a comic cover, and then it'll be an original piece of art for everybody.
Hey, if it's your first piece, then I'm sure it'll be worth something someday. This will be the first one.
Yeah, I'll sign it in all original piece of art.
Yeah,
you know, on paper. I'll send it in like a top loader. It'll be great.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it, but it's not as good as the next two covers, and I'm not too sure which is which with it, and I think everybody's going to see why I say that in a second. And let's just say that it was censored on ArtStation. One of them was.
I'm not sure which one. Show me.
So this one was censored.
I don't know. See, that may have been something that I did because you can like set for mature content. So
I think this is the appropriate one.
Yeah, the appropriate one. Yeah, it's So I may have actually set those settings up myself, thinking like they were going to do an event or like no matter what. But yeah, that was the first published cover I ever had. So that one I did about a year ago, but it didn't actually get put out until June of last year.
So what's the story behind this? Because obviously it's Vampirella. It's one of Dynamite's top characters. People love, you know, obviously read Sonja, and I know you ever read Sonja cover too that I'm going to show in a second. But what's the entire story behind this and how this came up, and also getting to do the nice version and then getting to do the bloody version of that and having both versions. And I know Comics Elite, you know, usually you can buy one version or you can buy the set, and people go ballistic for that stuff.
Yeah, so it was a year ago, last January. I kind of had some downtime because I just finished the Kickstarter for the latest Dusk Rider book, and I shipped everything out, but I didn't really I don't think I had any like pressing projects at the moment. So I had like a week or so where I was like, okay, I'm going to do another Vampirella because this is the third Vampirella I had done. So I was like, I'm going to really like just try on this one and just really focus and try and make it as sharp and as clean and like really spend my time on it, making it look nice. So, you know, spent time setting it up and then finally colored it. I think I have a time lapse on my YouTube or my Instagram or something, but it took me about a week to do. Then I showed Ernie. I showed him the bloody and the clean version, and I was like, "Hey, which one do you like more?" He's like, "We'll do both." He's like, "We'll print both of them." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So nothing really happened with it until like the next month. I was like, "Well, I'm gonna do a Red Sonja because I hadn't done a Red Sonja and I really like that character, and I'm just gonna make that." So I made a Red Sonja, showed him the Red Sonja. I was like, "Hey, I have this too. What do you want to do with this?" And he was more impressed by this one, I think, than the Vampirella. And he's like, "I got to show Sean." He's like, "But we also need." I think he just kind of forgot about the Vampirella. I mean, he has a lot of stuff going on, but he's like, "I got to get it with Sean, and we have to take these covers." So him and Sean worked out something over the next few weeks, and then finally, I think it got it moving to where. When I told them I got picked up by Zenescope, and they're like, "Oh my God, like we have to get these covers out before Zenescope does, so that way we can be your first like publisher in a way." So then they took them and they printed them out and they got them out like they got them out in June. It was towards the end of June. They came out like the first week, it was like the third week of June, the Vampirella came out, and the fourth week of June, this one came out. So they were both printed out about the same time.
Yeah, and obviously that's Dynamite. And Dynamite is one of those companies that is doing a lot of cool stuff right now. And they're sort of figuring out, and I think that they're hitting a very interesting niche of producing good stories, not getting political, not getting caught down in, the drama of comics, for lack of a better word, and delivering a mixture of some bad girl art with good stories and good covers and a variety of hitting a bunch of people's different things. So you could get a cosplay cover with Dynamite, you could get a bad girl cover, or you could get sort of a cute cover or just a traditional Dynamite cover that's been around for the last 15 years. And then they also do a lot of exclusives with a lot of people all over the comic industry and through shops and a variety of other entities and even some Kickstarter stuff. And so what is that like that, you have a Dynamite cover 2 out there, and that was sort of your first published work, and even just getting into that system with Comics Elite. And obviously that sort of led into something that I'm going to drop in a second here, but I'm going to let you answer that first.
Yeah. I really just wanted to do like a classic character. So the Vampirella, Ernie was telling me, Vampirella or, Dynamite in particular is kind of an easier company to get into for your first covers. So he was the one that suggested, like, if you want to do a Vampirella, we can try and get you an exclusive through Comics Elite. So like I said, that last one was my third attempt. The other ones, I felt kind of rushed on them, not because of anyone else did, but for some reason they both fell in October of those years. And I was like, I want to get this out by Halloween. I only have like 3 or 4 days to do it. So I felt like they were kind of rushed just because of my own deadline. But since that other Vampirella was done in January, I felt like I kind of had my own timeline to finish it. So I was able to make that, and then the Red Sonja, and I like those classic characters. I'm a huge Frank Frazetta fan, so I was like, if he's done those characters, he's done the Vampirella at least a few times. Like, if I want to do that stuff, so I just made it, and I was like, well, if he doesn't take it, I'll maybe at least show it off as fan art. Like, someone's going to notice it. I think if they don't take it, I think I'll just send it to Dynamite and be like, hey, I have this piece. Do you want to use it? And if not, like, I'm going to put it out as like fan art. So I just wanted to make it just because I like the characters, like how classic they are.
No. And I think it's something that's very, very cool. And I also think that, obviously people like the exclusive aspect of it, and people like Comics Elite. I've gotten books from Comics Elite, and I like Comics Elite and what they do. And, obviously I don't have as much money I would like to buy everything I want from Comics Elite. But it's the idea that I also think that it is very cool to have a Dynamite thing, because people take notice when you get into Dynamite and those types of companies, and it does make a difference. And then obviously I think the other part of that deal was that it introduced you to Sean, and then Sean and Jamie own Merc Magazine, and that's their baby with Murphy. And obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on with Merc Magazine, and there's Miss Meow, there's Death Rage, obviously. There is Born of Blood. I think it's Born of Blood, right?
Yep.
Oh, I got it right. Thank God.
Yeah, Born of Blood.
It's 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago feels like 5 years ago. It's been a very, very complicated 3 weeks. And so how did that relationship get started? Because obviously you got introduced, I'm assuming, to Sean sort of first, and then, well, I'm assuming it ran downhill, unless I'm wrong.
Kind of. That's kind of how it works. So I did meet Sean before I started working with Merc. I think it was probably in spring of last year. I got to a point where I was kind of just reaching out to companies, be like, "Hey, I want comic work," because I've done this in the past, where like
I get kind of in a lull. I rent.
Do what?
I'd like to buy some beer money and some beer, and my rent's due in like 5 days. Right. I'll work for stamps.
I was more like, I felt like I was at that point where I really wanted to be at the next level, so I just started, kind of cold calling and sending out my not resume, my portfolio to people. And so, I contacted. I just like started shooting shotgun approach. Like I sent off to probably like DC Dark Horse and Image. It was the one, and I was just like, if I don't hear anything back, whatever. And then I contacted Merc because I was on the Comics Elite website, and I was kind of just scrolling through. I'm like, okay, who can I contact? And I saw Merc, and I was like, oh yeah, Merc, like they're part of Comics Elite. I'll just reach out to them, see if they accept artist submissions. So I reached out, and within like a few minutes, Murphy got back to me and saying, like, yeah, we accept artist submissions. So I sent her some of my stuff, and then she set me up with a Miss Meow cover, right like there, like that same day, I think. Yeah, that one. So that one came up pretty fast, just because she was the only one that responded when I was just looking for, like, I was sending out artist submissions.
Because I like this one, and this is my thing, and I'm probably Merc's never ever gonna go and sit down with and interview me ever again after I say this. Most of their risque covers I don't like because I don't find them as playful. And I'm not a big nudity guy, but this one in particular, I feel is risque, but still safe enough and playful enough where she's just in a bikini.
Yeah.
And like, I find that to be tasteful because it's sort of beach-esque. And I find that this really suits, Miss Meow and that character, and that's something that she would do, where the other cover that's, I guess, the safe cover, I don't think she would sort of be in a beach background in a bodysuit. Like, yeah. I mean,
I think I tried to make it more of like a full body, like surf suit or like a wetsuit, and make it like that. Because, yeah, I see what you mean. There was a few different concepts that I sent off for sketches, but we decided on that one. And so I think when I was designing that full body suit, they had a few others that other artists have done, but I used that one as like a basis for like a wetsuit. So that's kind of what I had in mind as I was designing it.
So, because I like how really, the risque cover I feel fits just so much better in this setting, and it's something that like she would wear, because Miss Meow is not shy, for lack of a better word, to say the least, as a character. But I also like the fact that it's also very much tropical as well. And even just the color palette is really nice. And obviously, it's just a really nice cover, that one. And I'm just pissed that I didn't buy it. So that's really what it is. But I probably didn't even see it because there's so many projects on Kickstarter now.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I circle around way too much. And it's unfortunate that I miss things. And this is another one that's cool. And obviously, I can only show so much of this. But, yeah, this is kind of cool because I think this is your first medal.
Yeah, I think so. They said that one sold out like crazy whenever they had it on their Kickstarter. But that one was done shortly after the Miss Meow one, because it was the same setting. They still wanted a beach setting. Yeah, I thought that one came together really well, and Murphy was telling me that they sold out way faster than what they anticipated. So I was happy for him. I'm glad it did well for him.
Yeah, no, and what is that like for you that you do a cover and then because Kickstarter is a different beast than a comic shop or Marvel or DC or traditional publishing at this point because there's no middleman in a Kickstarter. People also are getting the book directly, and there's also, I think, more of a connection between the person who's producing a Kickstarter and the company or the client or the buyers at this point. And also there's also more of a camaraderie and a community built there.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is that like for you though, that it's still sold out because, it's a different animal completely?
So I guess I'm like a little confused. Like maybe rephrase your question.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So what is it like for you that obviously traditional publishing is being broken,
mm-hmm.
and I've seen people who have 100 books on a Kickstarter limited and they only sell 50.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is it like for you that you produce a book and then it sells out it sells out in general is always good,
mm-hmm.
but it sells out really quickly on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big confidence boost because, I don't have the same reach as Merc does. I feel like Merc, they have a big network where I'm just kind of like the guy behind that producing, and then they're able to sell it. So with their reach and Murphy letting me know like, hey, these sold out within like a few minutes or whatever. It was a ridiculous short amount of time. I was like, okay, that's awesome because that's job security for me. That probably means they're going to come back to me for more covers because I was able to provide them with something that made them a lot of money really quickly. So, I mean, it's a great feeling knowing that I was able to help them out in a way because that gives me credit. Like credit is an amazing thing to have.
And also, one of the things that I'm figuring out and I'm learning is that Kickstarter is now becoming very interesting where there's a lot of people who, and I use the term sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
So a sleeper, for those who don't know, is a book that nobody was paying attention to, and then like a year later, it just pops up for like $500 when it was $25, like 3 years before. And what I'm finding that's happening on Kickstarter, and I think this is a good way to describe it, and feel free to push back, is that a lot of artists are now becoming discovered and are sort of where people are like, who's this artist? And then all of a sudden their entire book sells out and be like, man, I was sleeping on that person. I was not paying attention. And then now the next time somebody says, well, this might not be around if I don't pick it up. So I better make a decision quickly. A cover A is always going to be around, but a cover E might not make it past day one.
Right.
And what is that like for you? Because that increases your stock. And it also, I feel, makes it so that now, hey, you got to be in tune with whatever company you really are championing and whatever artist, and you got to almost be in tune with the artist and follow them. When somebody says, hey, Tristan is working on a book for Merc Magazine. I don't know what the book is, but I better make sure I'm following him on Twitter because he's going to announce when that Kickstarter is live and because his book's going to sell out just like that.
Right. That's a good point. See, like, I'm not good at promoting things through social media, especially.
You're not doing us any favors, thanks.
Yeah, no. I did share this to my Facebook, and that was the first post I've made in a long time. Because what happens is I get really busy with my own work, and I forget to promote because I'm like, well, I already have enough stuff to do. I don't need to not that I don't need to promote, but because I always should, but it kind of like falls to the sidelines because I'm like, okay, I have enough work right now, and I guess it comes from that mindset in college where the only reason I would promote is to get more work. And so right now, like, I have enough to do where I don't need to have that like feeling that I need to promote. And like, I know as an artist, I should always be promoting myself, but I don't like social media. Not a lot of people don't.
I'm a media glutton in which I am always hustling.
I wish, and like, I've tried this before. I just want to like hire someone to share something to my Instagram, like maybe every couple of days, get on my Facebook, share something, get on my Twitter. Like, I have all these social media platforms, but I just cannot stay consistent with them. I don't like logging into them. I don't like thinking of something.
I have creative. A solution for you.
Okay, yeah, please.
This entire interview, and it's not anything brilliant, but it'll solve everything. I have a solution. But anyhow, even still though, because obviously it's very cool, I would imagine, where, this is what's happening on Kickstarter, where people who are becoming, sleepers, and then they're becoming unsleepers because we're like, oh man, I need to follow person A,
Yep.
and obviously I have artists that I follow. So Mike DeBalfo, I just picked up a book that he did for Jim Noble, and I just like his work. I'm always following Sun Kumanaki, Elias Chazus, but then there are other people like Brian Peterson, who's just one of those new guys that's coming up that I'm following, and you're going to be a guy I'm following. And now I'm following what Dolan is doing as a writer, because he convinced me on my show when I was interviewing him to buy his book when I didn't have $20 to do it before I got my paycheck. So but it also helped that there was a John Royal book in Born of Blood. That helped to convince me. But I'm very, very excited to actually read that book. Through the internet, I was really convinced. But now I'm following people because clearly the future is being defined on Kickstarter in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, it's exciting for sure. And it's good to like hear that point of view, because it makes me realize like, okay, it's a way for people to kind of keep up with what's coming out by that artist. Like for me, it's always just been like, I don't know, it's not like showing off, I guess. And I know I shouldn't think of it that way, but for me, that's just how it's always been. Like, I don't know. I don't like social media, but it's part of the job. Like as an artist, I should be doing that, but like I'm just not good at it. I don't know. Not that I'm not good at it, I just don't like doing it. So I try and avoid it as much as I can. But
I get it. I love social media. I live on social media, but my podcast is successful because I'm on social media.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm glad that you're able to promote me, because this is less work I have to do because you're doing it for me in a way.
I mean, you're legitimately being streamed onto my Kickstarter right now.
Yeah, it's great.
Super cool. It's super cool. And the interview after she's going to be streamed on as well, and it's going to be fun. And I wanted to get somebody else on, but they couldn't do it till February. And I'm like, oh, that sucks for you, because people don't realize. But even going further into Born of Blood here, obviously this is some New York Comic Con stuff. And that's a cool one, where that was a preview book. I know that much. And that came out before the Kickstarter, or it came out, I think, either during the Kickstarter, but obviously Born of Blood, the full book, isn't out yet.
Yeah, no, that one, see, we were in New York, and it was the first week of October. So it was out if that week or maybe the week before, that was the whole reason they brought me along, because there was that one, there was the Death Rage comic I did a cover for. There was the Miss Meow cover that you showed earlier, and then there was the exclusive through Comics, the two exclusives through Comics Elite, the Red Sonja and the Vampirella, and then there was one other, the Zenescope comic. I think it was out, but no one had it yet because it was coming out like that week. So I actually went over to the Zenescope booth and I was like, "Hey, do you have my cover? Because I want to buy some." They're like, "No, we don't have it yet," or it was back at like their office or something, so they didn't even have it. But so yeah, there was a lot of covers that came out like that same week that I had done. So it was kind of just a perfect storm where I was able to promote it that same week.
And so this book, I think the trade dressing is still purchasable, but I know the Virgin is not. I know the Virgin is sold out.
Yeah, that one, and I forget who the other artist's name was. There was another cover that was done, and that one sold out really quick. It was a very good cover. I was really like impressed by it. But that one sold out very quickly that same weekend.
Because I think you can get the trade still up on the website.
I think so. I was just over there last week. Yeah, last week I signed a bunch of those covers, so they probably have some still for sale or still available somehow.
And so this is something cool. And then what's really cool about what's going on with this is that, and obviously the campaign's over, so just to throw things out there and rub a little salt in the wound of people, there's some cool sketch cover stuff going on. And I don't really know exactly how this entire thing works. I don't know if I can get some stuff, individually or not, in backer kit or whatnot, but there's some cool stuff going on with this.
Yeah, for sure. I was really excited to see the other artists that were working on the series, because I was like, man, they got some big name artists working on this. I didn't realize like this was as big as it was, and so I was really honored to be able
Biggest
to
one yet, I
feature
think.
them. Yeah, it was fantastic. So when I saw the Kickstarter
98,000.
finish, yeah, when I saw the Kickstarter finish the amount that it did, I was like, oh my god!
I'm really pissed, by the way, because we were 2,000, or you guys were 2,000 short. And I say we as the group, because we all kickstarted this from that cover gallery. So I don't know exactly if people are going to add another 2,000 and we might break it, because that'd be helpful. I would love a cover gallery.
Yeah, get in touch with Merc about that. I'm just the doodler. I just do art.
I mean, I would pay like a good extra 15 for a cover gallery book. I really would, because I just think it's cool.
I think these might be available in February because I was asked if I would do some sketch covers, but I think Murphy said they wouldn't be available until next month.
Because I was curious, and again, because I didn't know exactly. I didn't know if you could add on just one of them, just raw, because I think it'd be fun just having something raw and then going to a con and then showing up and having you or somebody else who worked on one of these books, sketch on it. And I would add it on in backer kit. I don't know if that's going to be available because I don't think the surveys were sent yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not part of the Merc team, so there's only a limited amount of questions I could even answer about that because I'm not sure how they operated it or what they did.
I wasn't paying attention. I was a little bit busy with figuring out how to, survive. Recovering from Christmas and surviving New Year's.
Right.
I was a little busy, just a little busy in my life. But I know that you're also doing a lot of sketch covers and actually doing some commission work on some of this stuff too. And I don't know how many people pick that stuff up, but I know that's one of the only ways how to get Tyndall now.
Yeah. So they commissioned me for 10, but I don't know if those have been pre-ordered or if that's just the amount they're setting aside. I don't know. I just said, yeah, I'll do it. But that's all I know really.
And so this is something that's just out there, and I'm bringing it up because, right now, tracking down artists because of COVID, tracking down artists because, you're in another state. Certain artists are impossible to find. Certain people have huge wait lists. And sometimes also if you're at a con, Elias Chazut is a good example where you got to get to him early.
Yeah.
And you got to get on his list early. Now, he bangs things out and he can fit you in, but, you got to get to him early and you got to sign up on his list.
Right.
And so, I mean, he could probably do maybe like 40 in a weekend. And that guy's a beast. But even
so
still,
fast, and I see that stuff. Like, how do you do it so well and
he's
so
a
quickly?
Motherfucker is what he is.
I don't understand. And that's something I beat myself up over. I'm like, I got to get to that point eventually. So I think right now I focus on just make it good, and then speed will come with it. So I try not to rush myself too much if I can.
And so the reason why I bring all this up is that that's a solution for those waiting the next, Kickstarter. And one of the things about Merc, as I was speaking to Dolan, is that Merc, I think almost every month has a Kickstarter, or at least every other month has some Kickstarter going on.
Yep.
And so Merc Magazine is one of those things and one of those companies that is constantly producing out at least 8 to 10, I think, Kickstarters right now, and hopefully even more. And so they're one of those companies to watch out for because if you miss one, you're not that far away from another one. And which means that obviously if you're selling out books and your books are selling out in record time, chances are you're going to be on a bunch of those Kickstarters, and chances are that there might be commission lists and a bunch of other stuff that comes down the line for you.
For sure. It's really exciting. Like I said, I was in the Merc office last week. I signed some stuff, and Murphy was telling me, she's like, if you ever want a cover to do, if you ever just need a thing to do, just let me know. I will always have something for you. I was like, that's an amazing feeling to know that there's that kind of security with it. Cause I love working with them. They're very easy to work with, and I like the type of work they're giving me. It's fun stuff. Or I just like women that look like they could kick your ass. I just think that's a cool thing to draw. For some reason I enjoy it. So it was just a good thing to hear, to know that they would always have something for me to do.
And then there's one more thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's this cover, because I just think this is
yeah. Yep.
I'm assuming that this was somebody asked for it.
No, actually. That was probably from one of my first live sales that I did with Comics Elite. Or no, it wasn't a live sale. That would have been they had me on this program where, you know, Ernie would give me 25 covers, and I would draw 25 different things on 25 covers and then hand them into him, and then he would sell them on his live sales. So one of them was an Incredible Hulk, and I was like, I don't know if, like, I haven't been following that long, but I hadn't seen anyone do Hulk Hogan as that. I was like, that would be funny. And again, like, I'm just a 80s. I was born in 88, but like, I love 80s stuff. So I was like, well, I'll just do a Hulk Hogan on a Hulk cover. That'd be funny. But, you know, I got to tie it together, so I'll just make them green. So that's where that idea came about. No, I thought of it on top of my head, but I'm sure someone else has done it before, but I just thought it'd be a fun thing to do.
And I just think it's funny. And
yeah, exactly.
I'm a huge wrestling fan. I'm a huge wrestling mark. I watch a lot of indie wrestling, and I have a bunch of really cool wrestling comics. I have a signed CGC graded John Cena comic, and I love it. It's not for sale, so don't ask. I also have the Four Horsewomen and the Bella Twins on a comic book that is signed and graded as a 9.8. Again, don't ask. It's not for sale. I'm just saying. And so I just thought that was really funny as I'm going through your Facebook. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of hilarious.
And I always tell, or I've told people in the past, like, if my art style was a genre of music, I would consider it pop. Like, I just try and make it fun and like approachable. I don't try and like alienate too much. I just want to keep it, you know, fun and lighthearted.
No, I just think it's funny, and I think that's what comics are supposed to be.
Exactly. Yeah, it's supposed to be lighthearted, like kind of an escapism in a way.
And so I really appreciate that cover. And so obviously I do want to back out of comics, and I do want to talk about one more thing technically. I know I said that's sort of the last thing, but this is the last topic, and I promise I'm going to give you a chance to promote. But I am curious where you foresee, you know, really where cons are going, and even with COVID and all that stuff, because obviously I'm in Connecticut. I used to live in D.C. I lived in D.C. and then I moved back home to Connecticut due to COVID reasons and economic reasons. And I haven't been to a con in almost 3 years at this point. I haven't been much out, you know, going places. The only place I really go is to the movie theater. And I don't know, as a business, in my business at the very least, with podcasting, what I want to do if I'm ever going to go back to a convention. Because right now, I've never made money at a con, and I'm making money podcasting and doing Facebook Live stuff. And despite my Kickstarter not doing well, everybody, which you should go back, everybody, you know, please go support. I can't do it without you. But all jokes aside, I'm actually making money for the first time in this new digital age, and I'm curious how you feel about where things are going, because people disagree with me on that topic all the time.
So I've only been doing conventions for about 5 years. I think my first one was in 2016. It was a PopCon here in Indianapolis. And so I haven't been doing them that long compared to a lot of other artists. But especially with COVID, you know, a lot of conventions had to push off in 2020 and even parts of 2021. And then, you know, even though they're still happening, a lot of people like yourself don't feel comfortable going out, which is fine. But what I predict might happen, and like I said, I have not enough credibility really to say anything, but this is my own opinion. With those delays that happened in that year and a half or so, I think a lot of the smaller conventions were going to drop off because, you know, right before COVID, around like in 2019, I feel like it was getting really bloated. Like there was a lot of conventions. Every city had at least a few. Yeah, they were just like, there was too many. And so they weren't like a novelty anymore. Like there was just so many to go to. And so you see a lot of the same people at every convention. So really, you know, even as a artist, you see a lot of the same vendors. And so that kind of did, you know, it brings back the interest of going, because if you see the same people at all of them, why would you want to go to 2 in the same city or 3 in the same city? So I think with COVID, it's like almost like a filter in a way. It's going to filter out the ones that weren't really going to make it in the first place, or kind of like the excess fat. And then I think the ones that are coming out of it are going to be even stronger. It's like just a leaner industry. So I definitely think they're still going to be around, but so I mean, I'm kind of hoping in a way like that a lot of the bloated ones just kind of drop off, and it kind of strips it down.
the way I feel, and I'm part of Digital 2.0 Pivot, is that I'm increasing my position online.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking, saying I'm doing more Facebook Live stuff. I mean, last year I did 172 interviews.
Mm-hmm.
The year before that I did 90, and then the year before that I did 40. So I am purposely becoming more online. You know, my business is completely on eBay. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I buy directly from Zenescope on their live sales.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me as an individual, and at some point I'm going to probably enter the live sales game with something like Amazon live sales, where Amazon brings me the traffic and, you know, maybe Amazon takes a piece of it. I don't know the full details, but the way I'm seeing it is that I think I can do just as well, if not better, by being online and actually understanding digital media and marketing and really getting organic components and using influencers. And that, you know, obviously I'm sort of hitting that niche. And, you know, I'm connecting with more people and I'm reaching more people than I've ever reached before. Now, I don't think that means that comics are dead. I just think that, you know, there's a change in how things are done. And I think that there almost has to be mega cons, and then there has to be no cons. And then the online positioning, because that's where I see myself being, is being a substitute where there's New York Comic Con, and then there's 6 weeks till the next mega con, and then there's 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden, you know, maybe there's 50 cons in the US a year, and that's it. Because to me, that's where I think we're going, because I'm a business and I'm going to be producing a comic either in March or early April and probably kickstarting it. And you're probably not going to see me at a con, even if COVID was happening or COVID gets eradicated in like 2 years from now. You're probably not going to see me at a con, because I think I can do more money, and I want to market to the world. I don't want to market to 20,000 people at a con, because I want the world to read it, and I want everybody in the world to say, you have the comic, I have one, I want to buy a second one. And that's my mentality. And again, it goes back to just, I'm a greedy capitalist. But I'm not trying to, but I want to create a good product too. And that's why I really like Kickstarter right now, is that, you know, the product is there, and you guys and everybody on Kickstarter for the most part is saying, I want to create a good product and I want to make money. So that's how I view it. And I get flack for it, and it's okay.
Yeah, no, I think they could probably totally both coexist. So in a sense, like the conventions, you know, I enjoy going to conventions because I love meeting people. Like, don't get me wrong, I love to be in my office just working on my art, like listening to music, not talking to anyone. But I also look forward to conventions because I get to meet people, and I think people want to meet artists sometimes, or at least I think they do. But I enjoy the process of like seeing someone walk by my booth and see like that Mario print, like, oh, Mario, sweet. Like, I like seeing that reaction. And I think nothing can really replace that, seeing that live interaction. Because, you know, when I would go to conventions, one of my favorite things is like making a sale, like, and having a conversation about the piece. So I had a Jet Force Gemini piece, which is a very like niche piece. But having someone recognize it and be like, hey, that's Jet Force Gemini. That's a really like strange thing to make a poster of. And then I would have a conversation, and then they would buy the poster, and then I'd shake their hand. And that was like all part of it. Like, I just enjoy the communing between two people, like sharing an interest. So any kind of fan art I would do, it would be because I enjoy it and I want to meet other people.
I know the feeling. I know.
Yeah, and I don't think conventions will necessarily go away, but I do agree with you on this sense. I think they'll be stripped down, but there are people like yourself who, you know, they don't really see the value in it.
I don't see the rate of return. Is
yeah,
what
exactly. But like, I think there's another drive for some people that will say like they don't go to it to make money. They go to like meet artists or get something signed by them and just kind of have a conversation with them, which you can't really get in a virtual world a lot of times.
No. I completely get it, and I understand that side. I mean, I've done panels, and then people have, you know, spoken to me for like 45 minutes outside the panel about the topic, and I loved it. So I get that side of it, but I guess maybe I'm at a different stage in my life. Maybe I become jaded. you know. And maybe after doing this for 10 years, you know, I'm at a different stage, and also maybe it's I wasn't making money at cons and now I'm making money. Maybe that's also influential and changing my opinion. But that's my problem. That's not yours. And so I'm the first person to say that maybe I am not the best judge and the average person, because I view all this stuff differently, and I'm also now in the industry in a different way where I'm socially commenting on the industry through interviewing, and I've been doing that for almost 10 years as well. So obviously, you know, I have a very different view of how all this stuff works, and what I know is probably 10% of what everybody who's an artist and writer knows.
But it's fine, because we need, like, I mean, the world needs everyone to do different jobs, think differently in order to work. Because if everyone was doing what you were doing, it, like, I wouldn't be able to interview with people. But if everyone was going to conventions and no one had any like internet sales, my business would also tank. So you need everyone to do in different ways for it to be flexible. That's just how the world works, at least the way I see it.
Yes. And I like doing this, and I like being, you know, profitable for the first year ever. So,
nice. Congratulations.
So I like that too. So I appreciate my sponsors because they pay and make things happen for me. So that's so helpful.
I agree.
But on that note, and we've been talking for almost an hour and a half, covering everything, and we covered so much of your career, but I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. So I know there's probably things you can't talk about, so you don't have to promote those if you can't push anything. But I know that Born of Blood just wrapped up. I also know that you have that Robin Hood cover. I'm pretty sure you can get that Van Helsing cover still. And if you can't get that Van Helsing cover through Zenescope, you know, you can get it on eBay. It's very accessible.
You can also get it through my website. And I'll sign it too.
That is true. I forgot. You should get it through your website first before you go to Zenescope.
Yeah, because I'll sign it, and you can't get that signed on eBay or anywhere else. Any cover you buy from my website, I will sign. So FYI.
So and then what are you working on? Where can people find you on social media? Where can people watch out for you? Where can, you know, people, where should people look for you on Kickstarter? That's a good one to talk about, because I don't know what Kickstarter you're going to be on, but where can people find you collectively and basically get there first and buy your stuff that's going to sell out?
Well, obviously the Merc Mag Kickstarter, I'm sure my work will be featured on there. I need to promote that more myself. And then my own Facebook is, I think it's just facebook.com/TriStarr or TriStarr.art. Most everything I have is TriStarr.art. So TRISTARR art. And if you just like Google search that, I would say my website, my Instagram, Twitter, everything. But like my most updated things are probably Instagram, and my own website should have everything on it. My website has the covers I've done that I have available. They're all for sale. I'll sign them all. No extra charge or anything. And let's see, I have my own Kickstarter page, but I haven't done anything in about a year, ever since the last Dusk Rider came out. I do plan on continuing that at some point, but I've been caught up doing these other covers, so I haven't had time to really focus on it.
Yeah, you got a lot of stuff going on, and pretty much just FYI everybody that Tristan's a sleeper. I'm letting you know that Tristan's a sleeper, meaning that I said it with Dolan, and I'll say it again, that, you know, you're the guy to watch. You're one of the guys to watch.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it makes me feel good knowing that, like, you would say that, because, you know, I don't advertise myself as much as I should. So it's nice having someone like you advertise for me and get that out there.
It's not that hard when somebody does a cover like this to realize they're a sleeper.
Yeah, and I want my art to speak for me. Like, I don't want to have to tell people my art is good. I want people to just see it and judge for themselves.
Because the thing is that I didn't know who you were when I'm going through my previews on Midtown. I'm like, I see that cover. I got to buy that cover. And I don't know who this is. I don't know if they're 50 years old or if they're 20 years old. But it doesn't matter, because this is Bad Girl Art 101. This is right out of the book of, you know, Seductive. And it's not EBAS, but it's in the camp of EBAS in reality. It's in the camp of Chazos. It's in the camp of Zenescope. where this is not Kanan White. And I love Kanan, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I could say that is Kanan does Kanan, and Kanan's great, but this is right out of, sort of that bad girl 90s vibe.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
When anybody can do that, you got to realize they're a sleeper, and that, that's what you got to put on. So as I was stating, I'm going to keep stating it, is you got to support indie, and you got to look at artists, and you got to bet on artists. And what this means is that whatever Kickstarters they're on, you got to buy their books, you got to support those Kickstarters, you got to buy their stuff from their stores. If you're going to get the book, you should probably buy it from their store first.
Yes.
If you can. If you can't, then you should probably buy it from that company's store. Secondly, and then the worst case scenario is that you should, or buy from your local comic shop, if you can't do the first one. And then the last thing you should do is obviously still buy it off of eBay, because that also affects value. Because if a book's selling for 3 times its value on eBay, well, that indirectly helps the artist. Because
basically what you're saying is like go as small as you can when you're shopping.
Yeah. Try to stay as local as humanly possible. Yeah. And look, I'm the first person to say, look, there's books that I couldn't get locally that I had to buy right from eBay. And there's nothing wrong with that either, because you are supporting a small business on eBay. When somebody buys a book from me, they're supporting a small business, and the books I sell are sold out sometimes on Zenescope, and they've been sold out for 6 months. So you are supporting a small business. I also am not ridiculously overpriced, and I'm a very reasonable eBay seller. So obviously keep that in mind. But it's not about my eBay store, guys. But even going further, if you are in a position where you're money tight, because the comic book hobby is an expensive hobby, one of the things that you should be doing is following people on social media, sharing out their work, sharing out Kickstarters, following people on Instagram, shoot somebody a thank you. It goes a long way. When somebody shoots me a thank you message, it goes a long way. If somebody can't afford something that I'm offering, and they say, hey man, I can't afford to take your comic book investing class, could you give me some advice? I am probably more likely, if you say, hey, I really enjoyed what you talked about, can you point me in the right direction? I'm more than likely to help you out. If you come in a hostile way, I'm letting you know it doesn't really do you much good. But even going into me a little bit, and support indie, really, guys, that's what I'm saying. But to go and prop myself up a little bit, obviously, if you need comic printing, Mixum's really good. Drop my name, Andrew Davis, 5% off. BCW supplies, bags and boards are expensive. Pop Anime Comics, that's POPANIMESCOMICS, 10% off, goes a long way as well. That's an affiliate link, so you are supporting 2 small businesses, and you're protecting your valuables. And then the third thing, which is the most important, is that my Kickstarter is up and running, and there's a variety of stuff up there between metal cards, guaranteed guest spots, guaranteed live reads. And I will say this, that I did 172 interviews last year, and I rejected 150 people out of those, on top of the 172. So if you want to get on my show, probably should buy a spot. Also, I do teach comic book investing, so you are more than welcome to buy that as well, or how to start a podcast. And given that I've been doing this for 10 years, all that stuff, or you could just legitimately donate $1 and I will be ecstatic. It's all up in the description above. Check it out. And from there, I'm going to give you the final word.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really glad with the questions you asked me, because I think a lot of people, that I don't get a chance to meet at conventions now have a chance to kind of see some of my background and what my interests and my inspiration is. But no, I appreciate you having me, and thanks for your time, and thanks for promoting me. Yeah, like I said, TriStarr.art is pretty much all my social media, so you can find pretty much anything through that.
And I believe that is a wrap.